Nothing can resist the toffee pop.
Think of 80-year-old inner-city flats and you probably visualise sagging villas divided by paper-thin walls. Well, substitute apartment for flat and think of lifts with folding steel gates. Think of double glass doors into the lobby. Think old world style.
The apartment house, a European solution to urban housing needs. The apartment was born in the 19th century as cities like Vienna and Paris expanded. The invention of the mechanical lift made ever taller buildings possible. The Americans soon caught on, especially in New York. By 1900, the sky was the limit. The apartment building had arrived.
But this isn't Paris or Vienna, or even New York. This is downtown Auckland, and these are the Courtville apartments.
They stand in faded splendour in one of the earliest developed parts of central Auckland, 5 minutes from Queen Street. Courtville belongs to the 1920s and the first glimmerings of an urban lifestyle in the Queen City. 3 buildings, unique in style but sharing the same designer, and now a common history. Little Courtville is the oldest. Originally built in the late 1880s as a private townhouse, it was converted to apartments in 1917. Middle Courtville was designed in 1914 and was New Zealand's first apartment house. It was described at the time as thoroughly up to date. The 5-storey corner Courtville was finished in 1919. It's a rare example of Edwardian apartment architecture.
The Courtville apartments were designed by an architect called Sinclair O'Connor, and he designed all the buildings but one on this side of Parliament Street. He was a busy man, our Mr. O'Connor, and something of a visionary. He brought the idea of apartment living to Auckland 80 years ago. Today, that idea and the buildings still stand up.
I think when they were built, they were actually really unusual in that there weren't people living in apartments in cities in New Zealand. I mean, they were remarkable around sort of 1920 when they were constructed. It was a new lifestyle then, and what's amazing is that it's actually become a vogue now too.
So Courtville has social and historical importance beyond the needs of the tenants.
They most definitely do. I mean, I sincerely believe that they are sort of well, they're a ngāti waiti taonga, really.
But the apartments, like other old city buildings, faced demolition in the 70s and 80s. Lobbying by the tenants and then support from the Historic Places Trust saved the buildings. And today, the future of Courtville is much more secure.
Yeah, I think this place has a lot of affection in the minds and hearts of Aucklanders in particular, and just about everyone seems to know someone who at one stage lived in Courtville, you know, one Courtville or another.
The early Courtville occupants were mainly single women, typists, office workers. They lived in comfortable security just a few minutes from the burgeoning commercial centre of Auckland. Today, there's a greater range of tenants: doctors, business people, lawyers, musicians.
Do I hear you saying you got curtains?
One long-time Courtville occupant is entertainer Grant Chilcott. He lives in Corner Courtville with his wife Anna May and a 3-year-old daughter, Claudia.
Well, it's been home on and off for 17 years, and I love old buildings, I love old cars. My first car was a Model A Ford, which I restored. The second one was a Model A Ford. I sing old tunes, and it just suits the lifestyle, I suppose. It's living the life way back in the 20s and 30s.
Sax player and composer Nathan Haynes was hooked on apartment living while in New York in '92. Today, he's back in Courtville with his girlfriend, Marnie Harris.
Well, when I was 15, I met Grant Chilcott, who lived downstairs, and I was totally blown away by his apartment. He was single at the time, and his place was a lot different than it is now. I won't say better or worse. But, and then my friend Peter, a floor up, I just got a real sort of vibe off the people that were living here, and there's a real community. I mean, I'm forever knocking on Darren's door asking for sugar or whatever.
Darren Day is building manager and one of the owners. He has more than a passing acquaintance with each and every apartment. His is a labour of love.
It's the feel of the place as a whole, but it's also the detail that's involved. There is particular detail in this type of apartment around the 1920s and earlier that you don't get in modern architecture. The LED lighting in the doors and above the balcony doors, the fact that you have outside and inside space, so you can actually get out and overlook the street, and you get this very, as I said, European feel to it. The woodwork throughout the buildings, very high quality of woodwork, wonderful wooden floors, and the doors, generally glasswork. There's a lot of thought gone into the floor plan of the building, and there's some odd spaces in here that where there aren't all squares and straight lines. You've got sort of angles and sort of odd little bits and pieces that take you quite a long time to figure out. Its detail, I think, is what's very important in its heritage.
And a little bit of mystery.
And a little bit of mystery. There's a lot of mystery. History. It's got the stories that you hear every now and then are amazing. Different things that have happened in here. People have died, people have been born, people have had mistresses here, and all sorts of interesting anecdotes.
Courtville's future will never be guaranteed, but as long as apartment living retains a certain chic, there's no reason why the buildings won't be here in another 300 years. Well, I'd really like one of those for, you know, for when I come to town.
Oh, you mean when you're in from the country manor? The humble or not so humble letterbox.
Houses. Anyway, the